From the Journal of Amy Sullivan. Tuesday, November 8th. Lines everywhere. Lines at the stores, lines at the gas station. Everyone is freaking out. People are leaving town and heading north. New people are showing up from the south like refugees. The National Guard has extended the quarantine zone out 5 more miles from around undisclosed. Class is canceled. I haven't slept. No answer from John. All day. Tried to call Dr. Marconi myself. Left a message. Wednesday, November 9th. Left John 9 messages. Campus and the rest of town is now under a curfew. I think they're going to come looking for us. We should not still be here. I've decided I'm not going back to the dorms. I'm staying with some guys who live off campus. Didn't tell anyone in the dorm where I was going. Rumors from inside quarantine are crazy. News has a rumor that the CDC had to pull all of their staff out of the hospital treatment facility. Government denies it. Hopefully David isn't there either way. Thursday, November 10th. Finally talked to John in the PM. Suddenly he's all bluster. Says if we don't hear anything by Saturday night, 1 week after all this started, then he and I will go down to undisclosed ourselves and break David out on Sunday. Told him I didn't need to break him out. I just needed to know he was okay. Meanwhile, I'm getting calls on my cell from unlisted numbers. I don't answer them. Friday, November 11th. Got a call from Nisha. Said somebody from the government showed up at the dorm looking for me. I called John. Voicemail. All day. Voicemail. I cried again. I broke my streak. Saturday, November 12th. Absolute information blackout from undisclosed. No more video clips. No new information. I'm going crazy. I can't keep food down. A week. Where has David been sleeping that whole time? Is he in pain? Is he hungry? The government finally put up their website for families and friends of outbreak victims to search for names. 3 categories. Quarantined, status unknown, and deceased. The quarantine list was huge. Hundreds of names. David wasn't on it. It was in alphabetical order, but I read the list 4 times to make sure they didn't just put his name in the wrong spot. Then I moved on to status unknown, and he wasn't on there either. And then I just decided it was a stupid list because whose status do we actually know at any given time? They could have the whole world on there. I just closed the browser. No return call from Marconi. When I tried to call John, I got voicemail Only. Again. I left a message reminding him that tomorrow was the day. I gave him a location and told him to pick me up there at 11 a.m. No reason he can't be up and around at that hour. I'm scared. Excited. I'm going to see David one way or the other tomorrow. 18 hours until the massacre at Firth Asylum. Amy wasn't sure if she had been more freaked out about the crazy bustle of the campus earlier in the week or the ghost town that it was now. Campus was emptied. Everybody had left to go back home to mom and dad, scared the university would get swallowed up in the expanding quarantine zone. Well, those who had parents, anyway. That morning, Amy wound up spending a solid hour just trying to get dressed, standing in the guest room at the house where she was now holed up. A huge old house occupied by 3 gay guys she had met in a pottery class. The guest room was just a converted attic covered in Bollywood movie posters and full of discarded exercise machines that had each once starred in their very own infomercial. The hour was spent almost entirely standing over her suitcase and her underpants, trying to figure out what would be practical to wear in this situation. After imagining 100 different scenarios for what they'd see once they got down there, she finally realized that the quarantine staff would probably seize everybody's clothes and give them hospital pajamas or something. So, the best bet was to wear something she didn't care about losing to an incinerator. So then she was running late and still had to go to the drugstore. She'd been avoiding it all week because she thought it'd be a madhouse like everything else. But it, like everything else, was eerily empty now. Also empty? The shelves. There were handmade signs everywhere about per customer limits. She wanted to get both of her prescriptions filled, but they were out of Oxy and could only do a partial refill of the muscle relaxer. She tried not to let the guy at the counter see how much this freaked her out, doing the math in her head to see how long the painkillers would last her until she was basically flat on her back and unable to stand up. The answer, by the way, 9 days. Then again, the quarantine would be full of doctors, so they probably had all kinds of stuff there. She bought nasal strips. Couldn't sleep without them. She wanted some over-the-counter allergy pills. All gone. She looked for antacid tablets for David. All those were gone, but they had some tropical-flavored Tums that even in an emergency nobody would buy. Tampon aisle was bare. She also noticed the condom case was empty, though she figured that was a little too, optimistic. Anyway. She did successfully get some sensitive teeth toothpaste and the one brand of deodorant that didn't give her a rash. Finally, the candy aisle. Twizzlers were gone, but she did get some Red Vines, which were basically like stale Twizzlers. She could have kept going around and around the store for the rest of the day, thinking up things she and David might need, but she was already running late, and if John arrived at the meeting site to find she wasn't there, he might freak out. In her message, Amy had told John to pick her up at the bus stop in front of a huge Mexican restaurant that was impossible to miss. She took only one change of clothes, her bag full of pharmacy stuff, and her pillow. With the way her back, the way it was, the pillow was a necessity. She could not sleep on any other pillow. They could have everything else. They could send her into quarantine wearing a potato sack. But they were not going to get that pillow away from her. She got to the bus stop at 3 minutes until 11 and saw the white Bronco round the corner, right at 11 on the dot. She took a deep breath and said a prayer. I'm going to preface this with saying that I am excruciatingly high right now. So, enjoy. 14 hours until the massacre at Firth Asylum. 2 hours later, Amy was still sitting at the bus stop. It hadn't been John coming around the corner, and it hadn't been a Bronco. It was a different make. Some hillbilly behind the wheel. She called John for the 5th time. Voicemail. As she hung up, 2 guys walked past her on the sidewalk carrying shotguns, right there in broad daylight. She was freezing, her butt numb on the bus stop bench, sitting there with her pillow on her lap. She called the front desk of John's motel to ask if they could check on him. They wouldn't. She called Nisha to see if she'd heard from him, and she hadn't. No crying. She imposed a no crying rule until further notice. She had eaten about half a dozen of red vines at this point. An SUV pulled over about a block down. 4 guys got out of it, all of them carrying hard plastic cases that were shaped like they held rifles. Some had little briefcase-shaped ones that she guessed held pistols, or some other kind of littler gun. They all headed off in the same direction. She stared at her phone, willing it to ring. At around 1:30, she finally got John to answer his phone. Hello? John, oh my God, where are you? I'm, at the motel. What's happened? What do you mean, what's happened? I'm here at the bus stop. Okay, are you taking the bus here, or... What? John, it's Sunday. Pause. The buses don't run on Sunday? John. Yeah, what's wrong? Are you, like, crying or something? She took a moment to compose herself, and failed. Hello? Amy? John, we were supposed to go down to the city today. To see David? Oh, yeah. Okay. I didn't hear your voicemail until just now. My phone has been messing up. I think the network is dropping a lot of calls because of the... Are you coming? I don't think so. You know, today isn't good. I'm really sick. I think it's food poisoning. Probably just something going around at the motel. Everybody has it. But it's probably for the best anyway. I think we should hold off. But I've been doing a ton of research. It turns out the government has put up a list of names on their website. I haven't been there yet, but let me give you the address. Amy hung up on him, and she turned off her phone. It was, she would have to say, the angriest she had ever been in her entire life. She took a dozen deep breaths, trying to remember the techniques from the meditation class she had taken. Somebody claimed it could do as much to control pain as any prescription painkiller. She only had one other option. She dug the zombie flyer from her purse, unfolded it, and dialed the hotline number the guy had given out during the press conference. She punched her way through a series of voice options. Then, when she reached an operator, said, hi. My name is Amy Sullivan. My boyfriend's name is David Wong. His house is where the infection started. Both of us were there. I'm showing symptoms. I think I should be quarantined, but I'm 2 hours away and I don't have transportation. Long pause on the other end. Please hold. After a minute, a friendly-sounding male voice came on the line and said, Miss Sullivan? Yes, sir. We'll come get you. Stay exactly where you are. Please, don't panic. Okay, do you know where the bus stop is in front of... We know where you are. We'll be there within 30 minutes. Please, just stay where you are. If someone else approaches you, ask them to stay at least 50 feet away. Remain calm. 30 minutes? So, they did have people in town. She hung up and bit into a red vine. She felt stupid. This is what she should have done all along. She'd be in undisclosed before dark. 13 hours and 30 minutes until the massacre at Birth Asylum. Dark. Thirsty. I had been hospitalized only once before for, a concussion and some cuts and a fractured eye socket I suffered in a car accident, and for a minor gunshot wound unrelated to the accident. I don't remember any of it clearly. It kind of happened during a period of my life that is mostly lost to my memory. But one thing I do remember is the long, slow, touch-and-go bob to consciousness that came with the artificially induced coma of anesthesia. Sights and smells drifting in under the haze of nonsense dream logic, and a sense that the world had skipped ahead in time without me. And under it all, a thirst. This was like all of that. My last solid memory was stepping through the porta potty, stepping out of the BB's restroom door and into a shouting, shoving crowd that had gathered behind the store. The people were being herded into the spot by National Guard. Confused, scared kids with assault rifles and no protective gear. Somebody started shooting and a head burst like a balloon next to me. The dead guy flailing back through the door I had just exited. Days had passed since then. I knew that. I could feel it in my sore joints. I had a vague sense of cycles, of consciousness and unconsciousness, sleeping through a night, drifting in and out of a day that was just as dark. I had been moved and moved again, rolled down a hallway on a gurney. I remember having an IV in my arm for a while, and then they took it out and put it back. I had been outside at some point behind a fence, talking to other people. I remembered screams and panic. All of it just flashing through my brain, like headlights passing a bedroom window at night. There and gone. Meaningless. Sleep. Awake. Dark. I had eyes. I felt the twitch of my eyelids opening and closing, though the view remained the same either way. Was I blind? I moved my right arm. I couldn't feel the dragging weight of plastic tubes attached, so I had been unhooked at some point. With some effort, I lifted my hand to my face to see if my eyes were covered. They were not. I blinked. I tried to lift my head and groaned. A bolt of pain fired up my neck. I looked around for the glow of a digital clock or a slit of light under a door, or blinking green lights on a console measuring my vitals. Nothing. I tried to sit up. I peeled my back off the sheets, but my other arm wouldn't come with me. I tugged on it and heard the clank of metal and felt cold steel around my wrist. I was fucking handcuffed to the bed. That is never a good sign. I peeled apart dry lips and croaked. Hello? Nobody would have heard it unless they were sitting on the bed with me. I tried to swallow and give it another shot. Hello? Is anybody out there? Something about the echo of my voice told me I was in a small room. Hello? I waited for the sound of a shuffling nurse's footsteps outside, or even the jingling of keys and a burly prison guard to tell me to shut the hell up or he was going to put me in solitary. Nothing. I thought I detected the sound of water dripping somewhere. Suddenly I was certain, absolutely certain, that I had been abandoned here. No question. They had stuck me in a building, chained to a bed, and left me here to die of thirst. They didn't even leave a light on. I'd lie here for days, pissing and shitting myself, like a neglected dog in a trailer park whose owner was off doing meth somewhere. Hey, anybody? I yanked at the cuffs. It didn't do anything but make an irritating noise. I couldn't even see a door. There isn't a door. They just built up a brick wall over the opening, or locked me in a shipping container and bulldozed 1,000 tons of dirt on top of it, or sank it to the bottom of the ocean. Hey! I got one leg up. Neither was restrained as far as I could tell, and kicked at the railing the cuffs were attached to. I had no strength in the leg. The railing didn't give. Hey! God damn it! Sir? A tiny voice. I froze. Did I actually hear that? I blinked into the darkness stupidly, looking for movement. Somebody could have been sitting on my lap and I wouldn't have seen them. Hello? Is there somebody there? It's just me. It sounded like a little girl. Can you be quieter? You're scaring us. Who are you? I'm Anna. Is your name Walt? No. My name is David. Who's Walt? I thought they called you Walt earlier. When they brought you in? No. Oh, okay. Wong. They probably said Wong. That's my last name. David Wong. Are you from Japan? No. Who else is here? Just us. You, me, and Mr. Bear. Okay. Anna? This is gonna seem like a weird question, but is Mr. Bear an actual bear or a stuffed bear? He's stuffed when grown-ups are around. Sorry if I scared you. What are you doing here, Anna? Same as you. We might be sick, and they want to make sure other people don't catch it. Where are we? Why didn't you ask that question first? What? It didn't make sense to ask me what I was doing here if you didn't know where here was. Are we in the hospital? No answer. Anna? Are you there? Yeah, sorry. I nodded my head, but I forgot that you couldn't see me. We're in the old hospital. In the basement. Then where is everybody? And what happened to the lights? You can ask the spaceman when he comes by again. There were lots of them here before, but everybody's been gone for a while. I didn't need to ask who the spacemen were. Guys in contamination suits. How long has it been since they've come by? I don't know. I don't have my phone. It was 2 sleeps ago. I'm sure they'll be back soon. Maybe they close on the weekend. Do you remember when they brought you here? Sort of. They came and got my dad and told us we couldn't go home and moved everybody downstairs to the special hospital. And that's where we are now. In a whisper, she said, I think we should be quiet now. How old are you, Anna? She whispered. 8. Listen to me. I don't want you to be scared. But they left us here with no power, and no food, and no water. Now, hopefully they'll come back and take care of us, but we have to make plans assuming they won't. If you drank all of your water, you can have some of mine. Do I have water? Where? On the table, next to you. I reached over with my right hand and hit a row of shrink-wrapped bottles. I dug a bottle out and drank half of it and went into a coughing fit. We really should be quiet. There's a box of granola bars and stuff over there too, but they're not very good. Why are we being quiet? I think I hear the Shadow Man. I choked on my water. Anna, please. We laid there in silence, floating in still darkness like a pair of eyeless cave fish. Finally, Anna said, I think he's gone. The Shadow Man? Yes. Describe him to me. He's a shadow with eyes. Where did you see him? Over there. I can't see where you're pointing. Over in the corner. When? When did you see him before? She sighed. I don't have a clock. What did it do? It just stood there. I was scared. Mr. Bear growled at him and he eventually went away. I had read somewhere that you could get out of handcuffs if you broke the bone at the base of your thumb. Or maybe just dislocated it. Either way, I'd have to find out if my legs were strong enough to do that. The issue would then be trying to get the presumably locked door open, one-handed. Maybe Anna could help. I said, okay. We have to get out of this place. They told us we couldn't leave. Anna, you're gonna find out soon that grown-ups aren't always right. Let's just say that it's better if we're not here when that thing comes back. But if it does, I don't want you to panic. I don't think it's here for you. I think it's here for me. Yes. That's what he said. He talked to you? She hesitated. Sort of. I could hear it. I don't think he had a mouth. Like Hello Kitty. And what did he say? I don't want to repeat it. I don't think he really likes you. I said nothing. Anna asked, do you want Mr. Bear? No. Thank you, though. I pulled my hand as far out of the handcuff as I could, which wasn't far. I could feel the little knob of bone stopping it, 2 inches down from the thumb. If I yanked it hard enough, surely it would scrape off that bone, and the blood would lubricate it. Be a matter of not passing out from that pain, and me not being too much of a pussy. Metal scraping. I was about to ask Anna what she was doing when it registered that. Holy shit. That's the door. The door is open. I sat up and threw aside the blanket. The room was bathed in light. A pair of powerful flashlights in the doorway, side by side like the eyes of a giant robot that had poked his head up through the floor. I was momentarily blinded by the light, but I squinted and looked to the corner, yelling, "Anna, get..." The words died in my mouth. The room I was in, now fully illuminated by the flashlights, contained a small bedside table, a toilet, a filthy sink, and one bed. Mine. I was absolutely alone in the room. And on the floor was a tattered, filthy old teddy bear. Gloved hands grabbed me, holding me to the bed. It was 2 dudes wearing decontamination spacesuits, but the suits weren't white. They were black, and they had pads on the arms, torso, and thighs like body armor. Their faceplates were tinted, so you couldn't see the face of the wearer. The cuff was removed from the bed rail and locked around my other wrist. Leg irons were placed around my ankles. I was dragged from the bed and marched down a long hallway lined with rusting steel doors, just like the one I had been yanked through. There were other people there, roused to life by the sound of us passing their cells. I heard an old man screaming for his wife or daughter. "Katie? Katie? Can you hear me?" With no response. I heard a scraping from behind one door, like somebody was clawing to get out. I heard someone beg for food. I heard someone beg for pain pills. At the moment I passed a particular door, a male voice on the other side said, "Hey, buddy, hey. Open this door for me, please. It's my wife. My wife is in here and she's bleeding. I'm begging you." I stopped. "I'm here. What's..." The gloved hands clamped on me again to pull me along. "Hey, are you going to help that guy? Hey!" No answer from the guards. From behind me, the desperate voice begged and howled and wept. The hallway came to a bend and continued to the right, but I was stopped in front of a TV screen that had been mounted on the wall. There was a speaker mounted below it with a push-to-talk button. The screen blinked to life, and there was a man in another decontamination suit. This one, the normal, friendly white like you'd expect from a government agency. The face behind the clear plexiglass mask was familiar to me. The neatly cropped silver hair and weathered wrinkles. "Good morning, Mr. Wong. How are we feeling today?" "Dr. Tennant?" What the hell are you doing here? Am I dreaming this? If we just kept answering each other's questions with questions, this conversation won't go anywhere. Will it? I'm feeling like shit. Why are you here? You don't remember? Obviously not. What do you remember? A bunch of guys in spacesuits were shooting people in BB's parking lot. Guts sprayed all over me. Next thing I know, I'm chained to a bed in this prison. And now, my therapist is here for some reason. Prison? Is that where you think you are? There are tiny rooms with locks and handcuffs, and I can't leave. Call it whatever you want. How long have I been here? You honestly don't remember anything at all? No. You've lost all memories from your arrival until now. I need you to think hard for me. I don't remember anything, goddammit. I completely understand your agitation, but I'm gonna have to beg for a little more of your patience. I'm part of the team sent to observe you and the others. We're trying to get you well. He looked down and was doing something with his hands, tapping on a laptop, making notes. Immune to the sound of muffled suffering echoing down the hall behind me. Doctor, is somebody going to help those people back there? That would be ill-advised. I assure you that the patients who actually need help are receiving it. Again, this is not a prison. So am I free to leave? If I'm satisfied that you've stabilized, you'll be free to rejoin the others in quarantine. Where's that? Over at the hospital grounds, the primary quarantine area. But I can't leave there? I'm afraid not. The government would have some very strong words for me if I were to let any of you wander out. Where am I now? In the old Firth Asylum, the abandoned TB hospital just down the street. Temporary Reaper Command Center and patient processing. I thought he said raper and decided then and there that I had lost my mind. The who? Command Center? REPER. Rapid Exotic Pathogen Eradication / Research. A not widely publicized task force for situations like this. What situations are like this? You and I have had this conversation before, by the way. I know what you're about to ask next. Are John and Amy here? And once again, I can tell you we have 3 Johns: Washington, Rawls, and Brzezinski. But no Amy's. I had a dozen follow-up questions. Were they okay? Did they get out of town? Where were they now? But I knew this asshole wouldn't answer them. Wait, did you say rejoin? So I've been in quarantine before? We brought you over for testing. but we're ready to transport you back. Testing. Yeah, we're still trying to perfect our method of detecting the infection. And the test wiped out my memory? That's merely a side effect. One I do believe is temporary. How long have I been here? Here? Or in quarantine in general? Let's go for the second one. Ever since the outbreak. And how long ago was that? Longer than most of us would have preferred to stay. Let us just put it that way. Oh, fuck you. And you get to keep us here forever until you figure out how to cure the infection? If you have a better idea, you be sure to let us know. Trust me, no one is enjoying this. The best thing you and everyone else can do is cooperate. He finished his laptop work with a flourish of key taps and looked me in the eye. So, in that spirit, tell me how you are feeling. Why is it dark in here? Electricity is out to much of the town. We have diesel generators, but they're insufficient for the whole facility. So, we're forced to pick and choose. Other than your missing memory, are you having any other symptoms? Dreams? Hallucinations? Well, if I was, I wouldn't remember them, would I? You know, because I'm missing my goddamn memory. Of course. How are you feeling physically? I have a headache, and my joints hurt. Those are expected side effects of the tranquilizers and being bedridden, and also should pass quickly. Do you remember why you were put under tranquilizers in the first place? Any question you ask me that begins with the words, "Do you remember?" is gonna be answered with no. Understood. Do you feel like you're up to rejoining the others? The others? How many others are there? Can you tell me that? In the primary quarantine area? Nearly 500 at one time. Jesus Christ. And how many of them are people like me, who you know goddamn well aren't infected? Now, David, can't you see that I do not know that? Do I fucking look infected? Ah, I see. Due to being muddled by the medication, you're missing some key information about our circumstances. It turns out that appearances are not a perfect indication of infection. Not, unfortunately, until it's too late. So, hopefully you understand that we must take precautions. Dr. Tennant, can you hear the fucking people behind me screaming for help? Can you hear them over this intercom thing? Which people? The gentleman asking for help with his wife? We lost 2 staff members trying to help that man's poor wife. If you open that door, you'll indeed find what looks like a very frail, wounded woman. If you get within striking distance, you'll find that woman is the transfigured tongue of a grindworm. A what? I'm sorry. We have to come up with names for the organisms the parasite transforms its victims into. Without getting into detail, let me just say that we spent 16 hours trying to recover our 2 staff members from the creature, their screams echoing down this hall the entire night. And next day, as they were slowly twisted to pieces, the creature has been spitting splinters of their bones under its door ever since. so hopefully you'll understand why we're leaving that door locked. Fool me once, as they say. So, you just lock everybody up and wait for us to turn monster? As I said, we're making progress. But, regardless, this conversation is only wasting time and taxpayer money at this point. When all I need to know is if you're up to joining the others, out in the fresh air and sunshine of the hospital lawn. We need your room, to be perfectly frank. Yeah. Whatever. Great. If you turn to your right and continue down the hall, you'll find an elevator. And then what will... The monitor blinked off. One of the two guys behind me told me to hold still and unlocked my cuffs and leg irons. He pointed, and through a speaker in his helmet said, "Into the hall." I said, "What about the girl?" "Sir, move to the end of the hall." There was a little girl in my room named Anna. I don't know if she snuck in and back out or what, but she was in here right before you guys arrived. The guy gave a glance to his partner. Uncertainty? The partner said, "Move to the elevator, or you're going back to the room." I obeyed, my unsteady footsteps echoing in a dim hallway where the only illumination was dribbling out of a set of emergency lights to my left. Way down at the end was a barely lit elevator standing open. Halfway down, I turned and looked back for the two guards. Not there. Just lonely blackness beyond the pool of emergency light. God damn, did this thing seem like a long walk. My legs were weak and shaky. How long had I been strapped to that bed? What kind of drugs did they have me on? I felt my face and had no bandage there. Just a little bump where the spider had bitten me. Where were John and Amy? What happened to the town? Had the world ended? Why did this hallway smell like shit? Walt? A whisper behind me. I stopped and held my breath. Had I actually heard it? I continued, the elevator waiting right up ahead in the darkness. Barely enough light inside to fill the tiny space. I stopped again. I thought I could hear smaller, lighter footsteps trailing mine. Or maybe an echo. I whispered, "Anna?" Not sure any sound actually came out. I turned and walked as fast as I could toward the open elevator, without breaking into what could be called a run. I made it inside, spun around and punched the button that said 1. All the other buttons from there up had been covered with electrician tape. Nothing happened. I was standing under what seemed like a 25-watt bulb that was slightly brighter than a candle. Dead silence. No. Wait. There was a faint sound. Not footsteps. A light scraping. Then a brief pause. Then the scrape again. The irregular rhythm of somebody trying to drag or carry an awkward load. Or maybe just trying to walk with a severely wounded leg. Getting louder. Closer. I could now make out a smacking, sticky sound. like a person loudly eating pasta right next to your ear. I punched the one button again. I punched the closed door button. I punched the one button again. Then I mashed the buttons under the electrical tape. All of them. Walt. That wet sound scraping toward me. I could hear it clearly now. Not 10 feet away. Moving faster. Walt. 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 The door closed. If they didn't want the patients at the undisclosed Firth Asylum Command Center / patient processing facility to feel like prisoners, they were doing the world's shittiest job. In the light, I saw I was wearing a green prisoner jumpsuit. When the elevator arrived at the top, 2 more black-suited spacemen roughly dragged me out, put a black hood over my head, and threw me into the back of a military truck. The hospital was just a couple of blocks away, but the trip took 20 minutes. We drove, stopped, waited, drove, waited again. Then an alarm went off, and I heard an electric sound like a garage door opening. We rolled forward for 5 seconds, then the sound again, and then the clicks of latches. Then there was another gate opening, following by the opening of the doors of the truck. I felt sunlight and a blast of cold air hit my hood. I was dragged out and told to lay flat on the grass. I was told that if I raised any part of my body before commanded to, I would be shot. Holy shit. They yanked off my hood. The truck left, and I risked craning my neck enough to see a chain link fence roll shut behind it. I turned the other way and saw that there was another fence. I was in a gap the width of a city street between 2 tall fences that were each topped with coils of fuck you razor wire. The inner fence, the one opposite the one of the truck had just slipped out of, was opaque. They had attached tarps or some plastic sheets to it. The goal was clearly to make sure the separation between the hospital quarantine and the outside world was absolute. The plastic sheets were colorful and had printing all along them. The one nearest to me said, 91.9 K-Rock Rocktober Rock Cop. Rockocalypse. 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 Ooh. I wondered how long they'd leave me laying like this, but soon a gate in the inner fence slid open, and a voice from a PA system told me to go through. I obeyed and entered quarantine, apparently, for the second time. I don't know what I was expecting to find inside the gate, but it was just the hospital lawn. The building itself was immediately to my right, the front lawn of the hospital stretching off to my left. The sun hatefully spat daylight into my eyes. How long had it been since I'd seen the sun? And I gathered it was probably mid-afternoon or so. My first thought was ribs. Meat smoke hit my nostrils, like being downwind from a barbecue joint. I heard voices. Somebody laughed. Hell, it's a party. What was stranger than that was what wasn't there. Men in spacesuits carrying guns. I assumed I would be roughly dragged in and told to go report to this tent or to submit to some tests or shit. But I was on my own. No soldiers. Nobody who looked official. No staff. Instead, a smattering of tired-looking people in jumpsuits, some with hospital blankets wrapped around their shoulders, were staring at me like they were expecting someone else. When they saw it was me, they shambled away without a word. Well, screw you too. I spotted a pillar of smoke 100 yards or so away, off near the fence that wrapped its way around the perimeter of the hospital grounds. A fence that did not exist the last time I was here, and that was covered entirely in garish ads that were each wrong somehow. Like they didn't have a big enough tarp and covered it in rejected billboards somebody had laying around in a warehouse. Subway, come taste our new beard. I wandered around the fire, having absolutely no idea what else to do. It was the same strategy I employed at parties. Find the food first. My lungs quivered at the contact with the chilled air. Not an unpleasant feeling. Kind of felt like freedom. Hey, Spider-Man! Spider-Man's back! The voice came from above me, and I admit my first reaction was to glance around for the actual Spider-Man. Why not? He wasn't there. I found the source of the voice. A dude poking his head out of a fifth-floor window of the hospital. I had no idea if he was talking to me or somebody else, so I kept walking. I couldn't help but notice the window he was yelling from was not open. The glass was busted out. That seemed weird to me. I passed a fat lady in a dark green janitor's jumpsuit like mine, sleeping under a blanket on what looked like a waiting room sofa that had been dragged out into the yard. The upholstery was discolored, like it had been rained on. I kicked an empty water bottle. It skidded and bounced off another one. Trash was everywhere. I noticed somebody had knocked over the Florence Nightingale statue, laying on its side like they had just toppled a dictator. I shuffled toward the bonfire. A lot of people were congregating over there. Everybody wearing jumpsuits, either green like mine or blood red. Tenet, tell me this is not a goddamn prison yard. I passed the main entrance to the hospital. The sliding glass doors were propped open with 2 overflowing garbage cans. From the dim reception area inside, it appeared the whole building was without power. Post-apocalypse. How long has it been? A year? I wondered if the White House was trashed like this. The Lincoln bedroom full of refugees. Or zombies. I caught a whiff of that meat smell from the fire and my stomach growled. How long since I'd eaten? I felt slightly thinner, though that could have been due to the jumpsuit I was wearing. A clump of red jumpsuit guys were up ahead, talking and eating from bowls. I was going to ask them where the food table was, but at the sight of me, they all stopped talking, giving me a look like I was a cop, and they were all hiding joints. Everybody had patchy beards, greasy hair. Nobody shaving, nobody showering. On the ground were discarded plastic forks and paper plates tattooed with old grease stains and muddy shoe prints where they'd been stepped on a dozen times. The huddle of red suits on the opposite side of the bonfire also fell silent. The bonfire, by the way, was a crackling pile of smashed furniture, wooden pallets, at least one mattress, and bundles of what looked like blackened sticks. Everybody looking at me now. I scanned around for some fellow green jumpsuits, but there was just one guy who looked about 80 years old, and another middle-aged woman who looked like a school teacher. Her eyes showed no signs of even vague interest in this situation. The biggest of the reds, a guy with shoulder-length blonde hair and more neck than head, said, "We about to have a problem here?" He had the voice of a man with 4 testicles. His jumpsuit was zipped down to reveal an iron cross tattoo on his sternum. Not that I know of. Can somebody point me toward the food? Nervous glances. Was the food a sensitive subject around here? Nobody seemed to have barbecue ribs. Four Balls said, "You playing a fucking game here, bro?" Have we met? Man, just fuck off. If I agree to fuck off, will you tell me where the food is? The man scowled and said, "Ask Sal where the food is. Go ahead. He's right there." He nodded toward the bonfire. A skinny guy with a bandage covering one eye said, "Let it go, man. Walk away." He said it to me. Why am I the one that has to walk away? Maybe I want to enjoy the fire. Four Balls stepped toward me and said, "Dude, you got 5 seconds to walk away, or else you're going in there with Sal. I don't give a shit what anybody says." Wait, do you have me confused with someone else? Whoa. From behind me. It was the guy from the window. Green suit. Easy, man, easy. Dude just got out of the hole. Four Balls said, "I don't give a shit." The guy grabbed my sleeve and pulled me away, saying, "Let's go inside. It's cold out here." I went with him and realized he hadn't come alone. 4 more green suits were with him. What, were we on teams? What the hell was this? Had I stepped into some weird alternate dimension? Again? "Man, we didn't think you were coming back," he said. "This is just in time, too. We got the warning buzz about 45 minutes ago, so the truck's going to be here at any time." I said, I didn't understand one word of that. Just short of the front door, he stopped, leaned into my ear, and screamed, "We got the warning buzz 45 minutes ago, so the..." My hearing is fine. I don't know who you are. I've lost time. I have no memory of all this. Last thing I remember, everything was going to shit out there, out in the town. Then I woke up in the basement of the old creepy-ass TB asylum down the street. In the hole? Is that what you called it? The guy rubbed his head and said, "Shit, you get knocked over the head or something?" No, they said it was a side effect of whatever they did to me over there. He let out a breath, glanced around nervously, and pulled me inside the hospital. The place was absolutely trashed. Once upon a time, there had been a huge oval-shaped desk right inside the doors where you could check in with a row of secretaries who'd lock you into their computer and put a band on your wrist, filtering out the people who didn't have insurance. Now there were just ragged splinters and deep gouges in the tile where the desk had been roughly ripped from the floor. The guy said, "Firewood. See? Their plan is to take the easy stuff first. Stuff close to the door. Burn it. That way, when we're all more tired and sick a month from now, the only wood left will be the shit that's hard to get to on the 10th floor." Makes good sense if you're a fucking idiot. How long? Tell me, how long since the outbreak happened? About 9 days. You don't remember nothing? Holy shit. We trashed the hospital this bad in 9 days? Oh, no. Man, the CDC had staff here keeping things in order for the first few. Then they bailed out. We done all this since Wednesday. Today's Sunday. And no, to answer your question, I don't remember anything after showing up here. I don't even know your name. Name's TJ. I knew John before all this. You and I met once at a party, but you probably don't remember that for a different reason. Wait, is John here? The guy said... Nah, man. We got a lot to talk about. Let's get up to my room. Come on. He led me to a stairwell that was pitch dark, and despite everything that had transpired, still smelled like hospital. Old food, chemicals, death. I'm gonna get rich one of these days selling a hospital disinfectant that doesn't stink of despair. We emerged into a 5th floor hallway, and there wasn't anybody there who wasn't in a green jumpsuit. TJ announced, "Look who's back!" A chubby guy who looked like he'd been dozing in a wheelchair said, "Spider-Man! You escape or they let you out?" Before I could answer, TJ said, "Let him out. Dumped him off in the truck just now. He's still groggy from when they sedated him." To me, TJ said, "You hungry? They feed you? If you got food, I'll eat it. Then follow me." He continued down the hall. I got the feeling he was trying to pull me away from a conversation with wheelchair guy. From behind us, he said, "Gonna need him out in the yard in about 10 minutes. Buzzer sounded a while ago." TJ said, "We heard it. We'll be there." We reached the last door at the end of the hall. 2 hospital beds, some cardboard boxes on the floor that looked to be full of ramen noodles, energy bars, and bottles of water. In the opposite corner, there were a dozen plain white plastic jugs. Looked like old Clorox bleach bottles with the labels ripped off. Something was written on them in Sharpie, but I couldn't read it. "David! Yay!" That came from one of the beds where a white girl with dreadlocks, thick-rimmed glasses, and a pierced nose was turning a sheet of paper into origami. She was wearing a necklace that it took me a moment to realize she had made by stringing line through 6 of those red plastic caps from syringes. She gave me a smile that I thought would make cartoon songbirds come land on all of our shoulders. TJ hurriedly closed the door behind me and said, "Hey, babe, we got a complication." Dreadlocks girl got a crestfallen look and said, "Oh, no. Please tell me." "No, not that. He can't remember anything." TJ looked at me and said, "Right?" "Yeah." "You recognize her?" "I'm sorry. No." Dreadlock said, "Like amnesia? He doesn't remember his own name or anything?" No, I remember everything until, all this started. National Guards coming in and all that. I remember getting grabbed by some dudes, and then I woke up in the dungeon a little while ago. You don't know what they did to you over there? No, sorry. She said, I'm Hope, by the way. To TJ, she said, maybe it'll all come back to him? TJ shrugged and went to the window. The same busted out window he had yelled from when I first showed up on the yard. I said, if you don't mind replaying conversations I'm sure we've had already, can I ask what the hell is going on in general? TJ said, well, we're in quarantine. And beyond that, we don't know shit. This hospital was full of CDC and biohazard suits for the first few days. They had all of us confined to rooms with guards in the halls, but then some of the guards got infected and that turned ugly. Screams from the halls. You look out there, those aren't coffee stains on the tile. Then that was it. They bailed out. All the staff. Some of them got evacuated. You could hear helicopters on the roof. Some, they just left here. Now, they're inmates like us. Some got taken across the way, where you just were. They just left the hospital to us. I joined TJ at the window and scanned the fences at the edge of the yard, trying to see what was behind them. I saw the tops of some white tents, but not much else. We weren't high enough to see much in the distance. I said, so what, the CDC just retreated over to the other building? CDC's gone, man. They left, these other people swept in. Reaper. National Guard gone too. They pulled out to the perimeter around the city. Left my ass behind. I said, wait, you're the TJ John mentioned? You were on the scene the day it all started? Yes, sir. National Guard. Deemed an infection risk. Some Reaper motherfucker thanked me for my service, took my rifle and sidearm, and left me on the wrong side of the fence. There's more than a dozen of us in here. At least there was, anyway. The first bunch of us on the scene didn't have level C suits or nothing. Total clusterfuck. From behind me, Hope said, here, and handed me a crunchy granola bar, a little bag of peanuts, and a fun-size Snickers bar. There's no hot water left from lunch, or else I'd made you some ramen. Coffee's gone too. Didn't last long. There's bottled water on the floor there. TJ looked appalled and said, damn, girl. He gets the last Snickers? Almost had to wrestle a dude for that. To me, he said, hey, don't talk to nobody too much, all right? As you can probably tell from Owen down there. That was the dude bro with the big ass hair and neck. Things are kind of tense. Tell people you're tired, you got that stomach flu, or you got a migraine. But I wouldn't let it slip about the memory thing. No need for a complication. They all still need you out there. Red and green both. So, let's not upset that balance until we got to. You're our Spider-Man. And we don't gotta back up. Okay, why does everybody call me...
A buzzer sounded, an angry noise like the expiring shot clock in a basketball game. TJ said, "Showtime. You can eat that on the way down. Just follow my lead. Don't say more than you have to." He picked up 2 of the bleach bottles from the corner and hurried out the door. There were half a dozen of us clomping down the stairs by the time we reached the bottom. I had been shocked when Wheelchair Guy got up from his chair to follow us. For some reason, it had never occurred to me that he was just using the chair as a chair, and in fact, had no disability. In the stairwell, Wheelchair said, "I wouldn't been telling people that he was going to cure the whole next batch. Saying it ain't worth the risk." TJ said, "Well, we're going to have to talk to Owen. But it don't matter now. We got Spider-Man back. He hasn't failed yet. You're not going to. Right, Spidey?" I started to answer, but he cut me off with, "You do this, we'll get you some rest. Probably just dehydrated is all." Out through the lobby and back into the yard. Everybody out there was standing and staring. Not at me, but at the fence. At the gate I had just come through. Man, there's no guard tower or anything. What would they do if we just tried to run? Just charge that gate when they open it. Nobody spoke. I could hear the bonfire crackling. Somebody had thrown some more fuel on it since last time, piling the scraps into a pyramid shape to create that jet engine afterburner effect for when you wanted your bonfire really, really hot. If there were soldiers on the other side of that fence, they weren't chatting or shouting instructions or doing anything else. I couldn't even hear idling engines. It really did feel like we were alone, and I couldn't shake the idea that we could just walk out. Maybe everybody with guns fell back and figured they would stop the outbreak at city limits. So, why not break out of here? And what makes you think the infection stopped at city limits, Last time you saw these guys in action, they didn't exactly have shit under control. There was a faded white line painted into the lawn, forming an arc around the gate like an NBA three-point line. No one crossed it. No one got within 20 feet of it. I opened my Snickers and shoved the whole thing into my mouth. I dragged my peanuts from my pocket. They had an American Airlines logo on the bag. And sat down on the grass. TJ roughly grabbed my elbow and yanked me to my feet. "Hey, do not fucking do that," he hissed. "Shit, man. You forgot everything." I started to ask him if those 2 flimsy fences were really the only thing between us and freedom. But he shushed me. He leaned into my ear and whispered, "Listen, man. Buzzer sounds an hour before new arrivals. Buzzer means nobody gets within run-for-it distance of the gate. It goes off again right before it opens as a final warning. In a few seconds, truck gonna come through there. It's gonna be full of new inmates. People they rounded up off the streets because they might be infected. They get processed over at the asylum and run over here. Then, you're gonna look at them, and make sure they're clean. Right? And how exactly am I gonna... But I didn't need to finish that sentence. Check them for spiders. Because I can see spiders. I'm the Spider-Man.